Morning, guys. It's so good to have you back on Morning Brew. Thanks for joining us this morning. I got my morning cup of coffee, and I got my good friend Adam Hodgins, Pastor Adam Hodgins from Hillside Church here with us. Adam, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Benson. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Now, everyone I bring on Morning Brew, I ask them, how do you take, or what do you take in the morning, in your morning cup? I know you're not really big on coffee, so.
I'm not a coffee guy, but I have a great friend who has a little cafe in town who is still open. She's doing curbside delivery, so you call ahead. She puts your order together, puts it by the curb, and I've been addicted to her London fogs. So
Nice.
Lighthouse Cafe is killing it with these London fogs,
Nice.
and just can't get enough.
That's awesome. Shout out to Susan McElroy in chat. Shout out to Nadia in chat. If you're here with us on Morning Brew, feel free to drop a comment in the chat. We'll shout you out. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining us. I've actually been to Lighthouse Cafe with you. I came up, I think, twice
It's
now.
my move. Someone comes to visit me, I treat them to the Lighthouse Cafe every time.
Yeah, and Lighthouse Cafe is actually a cafe that's run by one of the members of your church, right?
Yeah, she's a youth leader and a worship leader, and she's a member here, and she's dynamite. I like to like. It's not. I have no affiliation with Lighthouse officially, but we like to joke that I'm like the marketing guy. So she'll come up with something, and I'll figure out how to market it. And so we have an Instagram account for the Lighthouse Raspberry Square, which is quite fun. So check that out. And also the newest thing is we try to keep things like very like nautical theme because it's a lighthouse.
Right.
So she's got these little pastries called lighthouse knots, where it's just like tied into a knot, and then they got like almonds. They're so good. So yeah, no, it's fun. We've been keeping busy like that.
That sounds awesome. Shout out to Sharon as well in chat, who's hanging out with us. Good morning, Sharon. We're hanging out with my good friend Adam Hodgins today. He's pastor at Hillside Church. Now, Adam, you and I met at camp, actually.
Yeah, where I named you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. At camp, we have these church names, and one of my fondest memories of camp is being able to serve on the worship team at camp with you, where we have lots of fun leading all the kids in worship, things like that, and usually play guitar, and I would play bass, and you'd sing and whatnot. Yeah. What was that like for you?
I loved it, and I love meeting you. But when I think about worship, and I think about Benson, I think about the first the first set we played together. And again, it's the beginning of camp, and we have these students that are working there, and we're trying to. And so we did our first like worship set, and it went really well. And the kids responded well to it, and I tried to give like a Captain America style, rousing, like inspirational speech at the end. And I was just kind of like, guys, it was great to be here this morning. I really love your passion. You guys are playing excellently. It's going to be a great summer. Like, it sounded great. Let's keep this up. And without blinking an eye, you just said, like, dude, I played all the wrong notes. Like, you just popped the balloon and let all the air out of anything I was trying to build up in that moment. But it was super authentic, and it was very much Benson, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It's a story we still share. It's pretty good.
I think the main difference, or when I think about you and me and our friendship, often our similarities will bring us together, but our differences will bind us together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like we have these things in common, but it's what we have different that are kind of this hooks and loop like Velcro that like, okay, we can be friends because we're not identical. And I remember you deliberated over a 2-year period whether you should get a different guitar.
Yeah.
And I get a different guitar every 4 or 5 weeks. I'm just like flipping, trading, selling. I'm just like, let's see what else is out there. And so you are very much like a stick to it and like, let's think this out. And I'm like, hey, what's fun today?
Yeah, for sure. I love I love whenever we do get to hang out. It's not super often, but I remember recently, a couple months back, we hung out at today's Teens Conference, which is this youth sort of conference. And one of the coolest things I think for me in my where I am is that here at Agincourt, the majority of what I do is youth and worship, and at Hillside you also do youth and worship. Yeah, as a pastor there. Yeah, what's that been like? Yeah.
It's we are very blessed in that the things that I would do for free, somehow I'm doing it as a job, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's there's a calling to it, and it's what you're designed to do. But we just get to serve the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and do what He calls us to do. And for some reason we're blessed. And like here's how you're going to just provide for your family by serving. And I don't take any day for granted, because it's such a blessing to be able to do it. And I love building a team. And so right now we have an incredible team of worshipers, an incredible team of youth leaders, of children's workers. So it's really just been a blessing to serve in this environment. And then 5 weeks ago kind of happened, right? And everything in the world was like, hey, everything is going to kind of turn upside down.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I think the stat right now is that 95% of the churches in Canada were able to pivot on a dime and be online somehow within that first week.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
Our elders meetings, we had a Zoom chat on Wednesday where it was like, okay, we're not going to do church on Sunday. We're going to do some kind of online thing. And then, by Thursday night, we were recording and going live and broadcasting on Sunday morning. And we're fine tuning week to week, but being part of a group of people that understand worship is more than just playing in a band, right? Yeah. And understand that youth ministry is more than just like goofing around with kids on a Friday night, but like how do we connect with those kids? How do we maintain worship happening in an authentic way through all kinds of online devices and what that looks like, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been neat to be a part of a team that adapts well and that really kind of embraces the change. I think this is going to change everything, Benson. What's going on right now? In a world where I'll take my church, because I don't want to assume anything about what your church is doing before, but we had a very minimal online presence before. Like I had an Instagram account for the youth, and we post to Facebook as well. But like it wasn't something that was needed to maintain what we were regularly doing. And now, we're doing online stuff every week. We broadcast live Sunday morning on YouTube, and then or Premiere, I guess is what they call it. And then after that, we have like an online Facebook live feed coffee chat. Like we just kind of the camera's on a coffee mug, and we just kind of like chat and talk about our week like we normally would at church. And the reach of that is about 300% what we were doing before. So you're thinking like, okay, well,
that's amazing.
Some of it, like my parents are watching because their church isn't doing anything, so like they're going to tune in because it's their baby boy, doing something that they can be part of. But you think, what is that extra group of people that you're reaching? And again, we were talking, like, I guess some of it is people just checking out other churches because when our service is done, like, what did everybody else do? And you kind of want to see and learn that way. But when the doors are opened back up, like if there was a magic switch, we flipped it and said COVID's done, I think it would be irresponsible to then just kind of shut down the online content that all these churches are generating now. Like I think there's COVID hasn't stopped any church from proclaiming the word of Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so how do we? What's it look like when we got to go back to our regular jobs and kind of do things that we used to do them? And then I think it's going to be you're going to see churches empowering people that maybe weren't involved in church before or were looking for a place to serve to say like, now we want to generate some kind of online content on a regular basis to meet that demographic. And so I think it's going to be a game changer, not just for churches, but just how people do life and business.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's so much insight. That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that. Sharon says, I used to love going to church camps. I used to go up north with the church, and I was one of the moms who cooked for all the kids for a week. Big job.
books, but to me, I'm like, do I really think people want to read a book that I wrote? Like, do I have that much to say? I got to put it in a book. Like, I'll write a pamphlet.
All right.
Give a pamphlet out.
I think we're back here. Hopefully, if
All
you
right.
can hear us in chat, let us know. Thanks for being patient with us through that technical difficulty. We just had something. We just had a power bar malfunction on us. But yeah, there's so much that. Let's go back to what you said, Adam, about how churches are pivoting all these things. And I think one of the coolest things for me, I mentioned that we hung out at Today's Teens, this youth conference not that long ago. And I know that for me, when we did work at camp, working with a lot of young people as well at camp, a lot of people who, like not just kids who were young, but also sort of young adults in their ages like 18 to 22.
Yep.
I found that like a lot of them were finding difficult ways to either connect to the church or finding hard for their skills to be used. For a lot of young people these days, technology is a big skill for them, and I think this sort of this situation has allowed them to sort of use some of those skills or connect in some of those unique ways. Have you been finding that like in your community or at your church amongst young people?
Yeah, like I think that it's something I've always strived for and thought was so important is how do we find someone's connecting point? Like, how can we get you involved in what we're doing? And whatever that looks like, from making posters to doing online stuff to helping on a Sunday morning. You look at somebody and you think like, how can they serve, right? How can we get them? Because there's a huge mental difference. I firmly believe in saying this is the church that I go to versus this is my church.
Right.
So my goal is always how to get people to the point where this is my church. Right? And you see the same thing with camp. It's opposed to like, this is the camp that I go to, but this is my camp. Right? And when you get someone who gets to the my camp spot, then it's like this level of loyalty that you don't see anywhere else except for maybe like the royal family, where it's like, we're king and country.
Yeah.
But it's like the idea of like, this is my camp and I will die for my camp. And it's almost to the point where it's like your camp, it's not even close to my camp. But it's the level of buy-in that you want to get. You want to get people to a place where it's like this is you're part of our family. I've always said that, like, not to get super spiritual, but like my battle cry verse for ministry has always been Ephesians 3:6, where it's like it breaks down the mystery of the gospel is that it's for everybody, and you're part of our family, right? You don't just come hang out with us, but you're part of who we are. Yeah. So how do we get to act that out?
Yeah, that's really good.
I was going to say, the other thing about like the online thing is that I think it's very hard for people who are church shopping or thinking about going to a church to go to a church for the first time.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm going to go there, people are going to want to talk to me. There's the whole idea, like, there's the debate of like how much of a welcoming team do you have at your church, where you don't want someone to be ignored, but also you don't want to be like, I'm a greeter on my name tag, so I have to say hello to you.
Yeah.
And go through there's a balance, right? But if someone tries 2 or 3 churches, it's very easy to get discouraged. You'd be like, I don't have, especially if they're not an extroverted person, like I don't have the energy to go and meet 200 people this morning and see if this is a community I want to be a part of. But with the online now, people can just click. And the thing that I think is really neat about how all the churches that once just kind of pivoted and somehow went online, but I think the online content that's being generated is a really good indication of a church's size, feel, capability, and vision. Right? So I think that it really communicates, whether it's someone sitting on a couch with a guitar at a home church, or someone who live streams like yourself from your church platform with very few people there. But it communicates the style of worship. It communicates the style of church very, very well. I think it's quite telling. It's a real good litmus test. So I think it removes that one step for people that are church shopping. You say, well, I saw your online stuff, And so we thought it makes that transition a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think also I'm finding personally that like with live streaming or Facebook Live or whatever people are doing, especially those churches who are sort of on a more public platform. I know some
Mm-hmm.
churches are meeting, almost like exclusively via Zoom or whatnot. But I think kind of what you're alluding to is sometimes on these online platforms, it also gives people a glimpse of the kind of content that churches are also producing or the kind of ministries that they're invested in. Because if you're invested in a particular ministry, or like you said, it flows out of your vision and what you want, what your purpose to be, then people are going to see that, right? They're going to see, oh, are they doing, you know, small groups this way, or are they doing, and then once sort of this is over, it gives them an opportunity to give a snapshot, like a much better snapshot, I think, than just attending on a Sunday for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely, right. It makes those doors more accessible. A big thing, I think I've talked to you about this before, but a big thing for me is how do we demystify the door of the church
Mm.
so that
Hmm.
you feel comfortable walking in?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Just quick shout out to Glenn Sampson, who's joining us this morning. Good morning, Glenn. Me and my good friend Adam Hodgins, who's also youth and worship pastor, Hillside Church, are chatting this morning. Shout out to Sharon, who says, "No matter how far I live, I'll still love coming back to ABC. Can't wait until all the virus stuff is finished and that we can all be together again at ABC." Shout out to Shuli, who says, "I'm also excited to connect in person with all the people that we have made a connection through all this." We are coming to the end of our segment, but I do want to ask you really quick, Adam. Um,
Yes, sir.
before we go here, are there any things for you especially that God maybe has been speaking to you lately, or teaching you lately throughout all this or through the season?
I've really been blown away by people's desire to worship,
Wow.
right? It's I was nervous, not nervous, I guess that's the wrong word, but that first Sunday morning when you're about to go
Yeah.
live with your service, you're like, are we doing, like, are people going to bother tuning in,
I
right?
can definitely relate. Yeah.
And so there's this whole, and then they're like, is it going to work? Is this going to, but seeing people respond to your time of worship together is incredible. And even with like my kids, because you wonder how does it transfer, right? Because your brain trains you when you're watching a television show on your couch. They're like, okay, this is entertainment. And you go kind of into entertainment mode, and so you're wondering, like, is this going to translate as authentic?
Right.
And that's been our goals. We want to create an authentic hillside worship service on a
Mm.
Sunday morning. But seeing my son, so emotional and like raising his hands and just authentically worshiping, I was like, oh, like this does translate well because there's a desire to worship together. And so even to that effect, we had a meeting and we said, okay, so like this is going well and we're getting good response and people have a desire. This Sunday night, we're going to do a live stream of just a worship night,
Yeah,
which
that's
we
awesome.
do every six weeks. We do a night of worship and prayer, and so we're gonna do that, and that'll be the next kind of thing. We want to try to create as much normalcy as we can.
Yeah.
So we're excited that, but there's a desire in people for fellowship and a desire for worship, and also, and this goes to like everybody who's in ministry or the church has heard, like, well, you don't need to go to church to be a Christian. Like that doesn't, like, I believe what I believe, and I don't need to be part of something. But you can see there's a cry and an ache
Yeah.
for togetherness, for fellowship. And I think we all joke, but there's going to be this Sunday morning when the doors swing back open, when the huggers and the non-huggers are going to be in the same room, and it's going to be like Civil War, right? There's like, is this okay? And my wife said to me the other day, she is not a hugger. I am a hugger. I married a non-hugger, and she's like, I might hug some people on Sunday morning when we get back together. And so I think there's a desire for worship and a desire for community. Is really what I've been seeing. Is that sometimes we take for granted that we get together with 150 people on Sunday morning that we would call community with, and I'm missing every one of their voices, every one of their faces, and there is, when two or more are gathered in his name, there's power in that. And I think we sometimes take that for granted.
Yeah. Well, I love that picture that you painted of the church door swinging wide open again, and even non-huggers hugging some people, things like that. I think about I have the pleasure of leading from the front, and even hearing the church sing. Right, I'm so excited to hear the church sing together. Um, when the church doors open again, and we can worship together like physically in person. I do also find that I resonate so much with what you're talking about people wanting that like authenticity and wanting that connection points. We do something on Wednesdays called Worship Wednesdays, where I just take requests and we just hang out for an hour, and we just live stream like worship. And I know for me at the beginning, one of the things was, well, I'm not as awesome, I'm not as talented as Hillsong or whatever, right? Whoever, like people could go watch a YouTube video about a worship experience that's probably better than one we could produce with what limited resources we have. But people keep showing up and people keep worshiping and people keep, I think feeling connected in this digital space, and I think that's an amazing thing to me. And I think that's something that God really is teaching all of us, and I really appreciate your thoughts on all that. Are there any? Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question for you, bud.
Yeah.
With this COVID lockdown nonsense, I think take a huge detour from what we're talking about. But what's your top 5 movie watch list for being quarantined?
Oh man, top 5 movie watch list.
If you had to pick a top 5 movie list of like here's the ones that will keep you sane in a COVID lockdown, what would be your top 5?
Oh boy.
Now, this isn't favorite movies of all time. This is most watchable and enjoyable movies.
Oh man, that's hard. That's hard on the spot. I would say probably I am actually a big like softie and romantic.
Okay.
So I would probably choose something like, I don't know, A Walk to Remember.
Oh man, that is so disappointing.
Because
it's that romantic movie, like it's so brutal.
Because it's brutal, but there's hope in the world. There's hope in the world. I would probably throw a couple superhero movies in there, for some light action.
Right.
No, it's fun. I would throw Shirley Singh Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. A animated movie would be great. I love like the How to Train Your Dragon series.
So have you seen Iron Giant?
I have. Yeah.
It's my favorite animated movie of all time. I'd say it's your perfect movie.
It's really good. It's really good. And then, a good comedy I think would be, I think just having a variety,
So you want to cover the spectrum.
Yeah, I would cover the spectrum of the human experience. Yeah.
All starring Mandy Moore.
Yeah. And then binge This Is Us.
By
the way, I have a story for you after. We are out of time though for today on Morning Brew. Thanks so much for joining with us, everybody. Thanks so much, Adam, for hanging out with us.
My pleasure.
For sharing your wisdom and your insights. Do you mind if I pray for us before we go here?
I love it.
Cool. Dear God, thank you so much for this day that we can hang out with Adam, that we can hear from him and how Hillside is doing, God. We just pray for him as he seeks to serve and connect with his church, and for all those people at Hillside who are seeking connection and worshiping you, God. We thank you so much that we can call them brothers and sisters in the faith, even if it's through connecting over the internet and through something like this. God, we pray that you bless us, and as we go our separate ways today, that you be with us, God. May you keep us in your love and protect us. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, thanks so much for coming to Morning Brew. We do have church on Sunday morning at 10:30. A little sneak peek, I am preaching this Sunday. So if you want to hear me preach, you can show up for that. Jesse and Olivia are going to lead worship. And until next Tuesday at 10 a.m., you can find us here Tuesdays and Thursdays for Morning Brew. Bring your morning cup of coffee or London Fog, as Adam does. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. See ya.